Algebra 2, hello again. This is for week of 427. Monday would be the 427th. And this is the first video of two. So homework will be at the end of the second video. We're going to be solving exponential and radical equations here. So first I'm going to start with a few that should be a little bit easier, and then we'll go after that. So one thing I do want to preface before we start, thinking about inverses, opposites, the inverse of adding something, opposite of adding something is subtracting it. Subtracting something, adding, multiplying, dividing, and so on and so on. Well, when we have something squared, the inverse of that would be to square root, okay? And vice versa as well. Square root is the inverse of square, and squaring is the inverse of square root. But that's true if I'm cubing it too. It will just be cube root. Simple as that. And same thing if I'm going to the power of 4. Well, then I would do fourth root, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so just keep in mind those are inverses. So if I'm solving something that, for example, x squared equals 25, and I want to get rid of that square, well, simple. I just square root to get rid of that. What I do to one side, I do to the other. X equals, in this case, it's going to be plus or minus 5. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we're doing this. Okay. Moving on, where is my eraser? I don't know where it fell. Oh, here it is. Okay, here's my eraser. Alright, so let me put the problem right now. I'm gonna work it through together. Alright, how about something like this? Let's start off easier. 2x squared plus 3 equals 15. Alright, so I like to think of this as going in reverse PEMDAS. So reverse of parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, addition, subtract. So in this case, we're going to get rid of this first at 3. We're going to go minus 3, boom, because we're trying to solve for x. The direction's here to solve. Minus 3, what I do to one side, I do to the other. I'm left with 2x squared, left to right. This is gone, equals 50. Okay, great. Now let's think about it. I can't go here and say, oh, let me get rid of that square right now. No, because I still have a multiplying of 2 to get rid of. So the opposite, or the inverse of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. I'm going to cancel that out immediately. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So now I'm left with, let's go left to right now, new line. We are left with x squared, because the 2 is canceled out, is equal to 50 divided by 2, which is 25. Last step here, the last step is to get rid of that square. So remember, the inverse of squaring something is square rooting. So you can think of it like a 2 there. You know, what's this root? It's a square root, so it's kind of like a second root. However, for square root for the 2, it's kind of like an invisible 2. We don't put it there. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So what that does is that immediately cancels out the square and the square root. So we're just left with x equals. Here's the key now, guys. Square root of 25. Yeah, sure, it is 5. I agree with you. It's not just 5. Because remember what square root means. If I say 5, that means 5 times 5 equals 25. Great. But it's not the only answer. Negative 5 also works. Because negative 5 times negative 5 equals 25. So for that reason, we put plus or minus 5. We're solving it. X equals plus or minus 5. If I want to then go and plug in the x over here, so let's say I plug in a 5 here, just to double check my work. I plug in 5 or negative 5, doesn't matter. I'm going to try 5. I'm going to do this in my head. 5 squared is 25. 2 times 25 is 50. And then 50 plus 3 is equal to 53. Yeah, we did it right. Okay, so let's erase this one. Let's take it a step higher. All right. Okay, what we got here, let's go negative 3x to the power of 4 minus 1 equals negative 49. The only reason this is harder is because instead of having x squared, we have x to the power of 4. We have some negatives in there. That's about it. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same thing. Let's move that negative 1 by doing, or that minus 1 by doing plus 1. What I do to one side, I do to the other side, equal sign. Let's rewrite this from left to right. We got negative 3x to the power of 4 equals negative 49 plus 1 is negative 48. Okay? Now I need to divide this out, but it's not a 3. Be careful, I'm dividing out a negative 3. Okay, so opposite of multiplying is dividing. We divide out a negative 3, so please be careful with that. New line, we have x. So this is the negative 3's are gone. We have x to the power of 4. Negative divided by negative is positive. That's going to be a positive 16. Okay, you can use a calculator for that if you'd like, but I'm just letting you know that's a positive 16. Okay, last step. Now, remember in the last problem we had x squared equals 25, so we square root, cancel out the square. Well, we're going to do something like that here, except we're not going to square root it because that was an x squared. This is a power of 4, so we're going to fourth root it. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. I'm going to fourth root that as well. Okay? So the fourth root and that is going to cancel out. We're going to be left with x equals. Now we have to think about what multiplies times itself 4 times to give us. It's going to be 2. Because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Yes, so the answer is 2. However, I do want you guys to be careful because technically it's not just 2. Negative 2 also works. Negative times negative is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. But then negative 8 times negative 2 is still positive 16. So again, we're going to put plus or minus 2 because technically they both work. Okay? So moving on now, we are going to do, we're going to shift a little bit now. Okay. I am going to go to our last problem we're going to do on this video. X to the power of 3 this time. Now, I do want to point something out. This is to the power of 3. I'm going to put a little sidebar here, okay? The first problem, we had x squared equals 25. The second problem, we had x to the power of 4 equals, I think, 16. Yeah. Okay. I want to keep that on the side note for now. So right now, I'm just going to keep it on the side, but I'm going to come back to it in just a second, okay? So our last problem, 2x to the power of 3 plus 4 equals 26. Okay. Solve it just like we did the last ones. Move that 4, minus 4, new line. 2x to the power of 3 equals 22. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. We get x to the power of 3 equals 11. Okay? And then we're going to, now, since this is x to the power of 3, we have to cube root it or third root it. Okay? What I do to one side, I do to the other. I'm going to third root that. And so the third root and the power of 3 cancel out. We're left with x equals. Now, interesting. The third root of 11. The cube root of 11. There is no perfect cube root of 11. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So there is no perfect cube root of 11. There is a cube root of 11. It's going to be 2 point something. I don't know. I'm not a calculator. So the fact that it's not going to be a whole number here, like this, and totally okay with that answer being our final answer. X equals to the cube root of 11. Okay? I did say I'm going to come back to this for a second, and I do want to show you guys something. Let's pretend, okay, so this is the final answer. Let's pretend it was x cubed equals 8. Let's say we had something like that. We do cube root, cancel out, you get x equals cube root of 8, which actually is a perfect cube root. The cube root of 8 is actually 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Now here's the question. For x cubed equals 8, we're getting our answer as x equals 2. So here's my question here, guys. Would x equals 2, would that be plus or minus 2, or would it be just 2? In this case, it's actually just 2, because if you find negative, watch what happens. Negative times negative is positive 4. 4 times negative 2 is actually going to give you negative 8, which is not what we have here. We're asking for the cube root of 8. So actually, negative 2 wouldn't be one of the solutions. Let's say it asked for the cube root of negative 8. Well, in that case, negative 2 would be the answer. Positive 2 would not be the answer. Okay? So just I want you to be careful here. But for this, we had x equals plus or minus 2, x equals plus or minus 5. And the key to remember this, guys, is always put your exponent. If you have an even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, if you have an even number, your solution is going to be plus or minus. Whereas if you have an odd exponent right there, it's only going to be either plus or minus. So in this case, since it said x cubed equals positive 8, then our answer is going to be positive 2. If it was negative 8, it would have been negative 2. But for when it's an odd number, like 3, 5, 7, 9, so on and so on, it's only going to be one of the answers, either positive or negative, but not both. For even, it's going to be plus or minus. It's going to be plus or minus. Okay, so next video, this is video 1. Watch video 2, in which you'll see the homework afterwards.